Welcome. My name is Mohsen Banan. I'm a software and internet engineer. I'll present to you an overview of the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem. In addition to this web-based presentation-oriented form, this information is also available to you as a set of PDF slides and as a linear multimedia web page that we call the presentation article format, which also includes a transcript of everything being said in this presentation. You can choose the form and format that best suits you. The access page for these documents is ByStar's PLPC 180-054. We start with an elevator pitch video which is available in English, French, and Farsi. The content, message, and tone of these videos is not the same, as our audiences are not the same. The danger that the current internet trends are posing to humanity in the form of crushing our autonomy and privacy are not experienced the same way by Americans, Europeans, Iranians, Asians, and the rest of humanity. After the videos, we provide you an overview of the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem, which includes lots of pointers for digging deeper. Greetings, my name is Mohsen Banan. I'm the founder of Neda Communications Inc. and I am the origin of the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem. Some have come to recognize that in the proprietary American digital ecosystem, by that I mean Internet application services as they exist today, the individuals, our autonomy and privacy is being crushed. However, no one is doing anything meaningful about it. ByStar is about rescuing humanity from the dragnet of Google, Facebook, and America's surveillance economy. Our primary offerings are real, tangible, and practical autonomy and privacy, destined for very large scale and based on a new for-profit economic model. Over the past 2 decades or so, we have designed and built the necessary foundations and have validated our model and capabilities on small scale. ByStar is fully internally transparent and is built on pure, free, and open source software, FOSS. Definition of Libre-Halaal services requires the entire service to be reproducible from source. We are now ready to expose our work, and I invite you to participate in redirecting the future of Internet application services towards becoming re-decentralized with individuals as autonomous entities in charge of their own communications, interactions, and privacy. Civilization and humanity are facing a very serious problem. Our autonomy and privacy are being destroyed. This is an existential threat which is not being recognized as such by many, or perhaps most. The proprietary American model has unleashed certain dynamics that result into full domination of corporations over individuals. Central to these dangerous dynamics is a colossal ownership mistake, that of the Western intellectual property rights regime. Copyright and patents as forms of ownership directly and indirectly have shaped the proprietary American digital ecosystem towards empowering the corporation and towards crippling the individual. Those responsible for safeguarding the public interest, government and the engineering profession, are asleep at the wheels. These dynamics are not well understood, and these trends are progressing. It is not possible to evolve the proprietary American digital ecosystem into something healthy. There are no band-aid solutions. We need to erect a healthy alternative against it. So we are claiming to have created a complete parallel digital ecosystem to stand against and in contrast to the existing proprietary American digital ecosystem. We are calling it the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem. Such a large undertaking by a small group should normally amount to not more than pipe dreams. Typical first reactions to our claim is a chuckle. Some say it's insane. Many say that the notion of creating a parallel digital ecosystem is so very lofty that it can't be realistic. But we have done all the analytical work. We have a grand design and we have a tangible beginning in place. And now we want to make it more complete and we want to make its adoption very widespread. Fully describing the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem requires far more than this introductory presentation. To empower you to dig as deep as you wish, we are including some pointers on this slide. The main entry point for ByStar is www.by-star.net. It's in the form of a Dear Fellow World Citizen letter. You can also read it as PLPC 18016, which is a 50-page document. It provides a general description of ByStar. At bystar.net, there is also a reading roadmap and a publications list. There is also a complete business plan, which is open and available to all. Next, we provide you a multidisciplinary panorama of ByStar. The design of a proper digital ecosystem must be multidisciplinary and should span philosophy, ethics, engineering, society, economics, and business. After providing an overview of the ByStar model, we shall consider each and all of these disciplinary perspectives in turn. The primary difference between the proprietary American digital ecosystem and the ByStar digital ecosystem is that the American digital ecosystem is totally unregulated, and the ByStar digital ecosystem is self-regulated. Based on ownership of opaque software and opaque internet services and with no regulations and restrictions, monsters such as Facebook have been created. In the model of proprietary American digital ecosystem, the only response to such monsters is that of considering them as monopoly utilities and subjecting them to legislated restrictions. But that can't happen in the American model because corpocracy wants the likes of Facebook to be free to exploit and spy on the rest of the world. Digital ecosystems should be based on regulations. Ab initio and very much by choice, we are restricting ourselves in the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem in a number of areas. It is not possible to offer real and tangible autonomy and privacy without committing to complete internal transparency of software and services. All of ByStar is internally transparent and Libre-Halal. All ByStar software must be internally transparent. All ByStar internet services must be internally transparent and reproducible in their entirety. The requirements that we are imposing on ByStar are towards preservation of the individual's autonomy and privacy. ByStar autonomous services belong to their owner user, not the service provider. Optionally, the user can possess the service. The individual is in the control of her service, and she can fully control her privacy. These freedom-oriented restrictions then permit healthy organic growth of the digital ecosystem in all respects. Our scope and scale is enormous. The scope of ByStar is everything. The star in ByStar comes from the globe expansion symbol of Unix. The integrated facilities of ByStar are intended to be used by a very large segment of population on this planet. ByStar is not American or Western centric. ByStar addresses autonomy and privacy of the individual. Sacredness of autonomy and privacy spans most cultures and civilizations. Often, digital ecosystems are viewed as consisting of 4 parts: ideology, software, services, and content. Societal ideology determines manner of existence of software, services, and content. In the proprietary American digital ecosystem, based on intellectual property rights model, manner of existence of software, services, and content becomes corporate-owned and opaque. These in turn deteriorate the individual's autonomy and privacy. In the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem, based on rejection of personal ownership of polyexistentials, manner of existence of software, services, and content is mandated to be internally transparent and under public guardianship. These in turn work in favor of protection of the individual's autonomy and privacy. In order to provide you a description of the general contours of the ByStar digital ecosystem, we start by comparing and contrasting it with the existing proprietary American digital ecosystem in several dimensions. The proprietary American digital ecosystem is primarily driven by business, profit, economics, and corpocracy. It is highly transaction-oriented. It has no underlying fundamental human design. The Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem is designed to be anchored and centered around the autonomy of the individual. Only after respecting that requirement, the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem is also market, business, and profit-oriented. So, the fundamental difference is that the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem is regulated towards respecting the autonomy of the individual. Proprietary American digital ecosystem is rooted in American values and the Western intellectual property rights regime. The Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem is human-oriented and fully rejects the Western intellectual property rights regime and requires that the manner of existence of polyexistentials be Libre-Halaal. It turns out that the Western intellectual property rights regime does serious harm to the autonomy of the individual, and that the intellectual property rights regime is incompatible with the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem. The overwhelming majority of software and internet services in the proprietary American digital ecosystem are internally opaque. Users don't know what their software and their services are doing. In the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem, all software and all internet services are required to be internally transparent. Users of the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem, through the engineering profession, know that the software and services that they are using are doing what they expect. There is no meaningful governance and oversight in the proprietary American digital ecosystem. Therefore, corporations exploit the individual. The Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem is self-governed by the engineering profession. The net result of these are clear. In the proprietary American digital ecosystem, corporations and governments dominate the individual. The individual is under constant surveillance. In the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem, the autonomy and privacy of the individual is protected based on the design of the digital ecosystem, and as a result, humanity has a chance. The design of the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem is based on a set of abstractions. I'll provide an overview of these abstractions here. Abstractions of real-world entities in ByStar digital ecosystem, abbreviated as ByStar DE, are called ByStar entities, BXEs. When realized, instantiated, activated, BXEs take the form of ByStar objects, BXOs. BXOs map to Unix user accounts. The Universal BySOS, ByStar Internet Services OS, is the software that runs on all ByStar digital ecosystem computers, be it handsets, devices, servers, laptops, and virtual machines. Equipped with BySOS, ByStar platforms, BXPs, are capable of hosting BXEs and BXOs. Real-world autonomous entities, individuals and corporations, are abstracted as ByStar autonomous entities, BXAEs. BXAEs can then create controlled ByStar entities, BXCEs. ByStar autonomous entities and ByStar controlled entities can then interact, communicate, collaborate with each other. ByStar capabilities are services that facilitate end-to-end communications, collaboration, and interactions amongst BXAEs and or BXCEs. Based on this model, anything that is being done in the proprietary American digital ecosystem's rise of the middle interactions model can be done in the end-to-end facilitated model of ByStar entities. The proprietary American digital ecosystem model results into dozens of passwords for services over which users have little control. The Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystems model allows for ByStar autonomous entities to use their public-private keys to gain access to internally transparent services. ByStar platforms, BXPs, are container of ByStar objects, BXOs. Hence, the level of privacy and control that an individual wants to assert over her information and her services determine the type of ByStar platform that she chooses as the container of her BXOs. As shown in this table, an on-premise BXP is a server computer that an individual can install in her own house. The platform and, by extension, her information are then in her physical possession. This type of BXP presents the highest level of autonomy. Alternatively, she could take her own box and install it as a co-located BXP in a ByStar data center. Or she could start from a hosted private BXP where a dedicated virtual machine is created as her BXP in the private cloud. Or she could have her BXOs hosted in public clouds that are subject to ByStar's portability and data and service non-retention rules. The model of public cloud shared BXPs can be made as simple and as convenient as getting a Gmail account. Note that the choice of any of these types of BXP realizations are easily convertible. For example, a user can take her public cloud BXOs and transfer them to her own on-premise BXP when she wishes. Here, pictorially, we provide an overview of the ByStar digital ecosystem concepts and terminology. We take terminology and definitional terms seriously. ByStar is properly designed, and as such, all new concepts that we introduced are well defined and well labeled. There are three fundamental parts to a digital ecosystem: software, services, and ideology. The unified and universal software that runs all of ByStar is called BySOS, ByStar Internet Application Services OS. BySOS is an open source layer on top of Linux. We use the term Libre-Halaal to refer to the ethical manner of existence of software, internet services, and content. For software in particular, we use the terms Libre-Halaal open source, FOSS, and FLOSS, free and libre open source software, interchangeably. What we are proposing with ByStar is very possible because the overwhelming majority of the existing internet applications are in fact based on the open source software. In the proprietary American digital ecosystem, the open source software is converted into internet application services based on a walled garden model. In terms of technology and software, with ByStar and BySOS, we are just breaking the walled garden model. And this is what we call the Libre-Halaal ideology. With that in place, it's quite simple then to add the abstraction of the autonomous individual to the digital ecosystem. In terms of services, everything is anchored in preserving autonomy of the individual. These are shown in light gray section labeled as ByStar services. We expand on this next. All ByStar internet services conform to the definition of Libre-Halaal internet services, which we will present formally in the next slide. The following types of ByStar internet services are identified. Autonomous ByStar services can be self-hosted. You can be your own application service provider. Or autonomous ByStar services can be hosted and be subject to service portability. Controlled ByStar services are under control and responsibility of an autonomous entity. Examples of controlled ByStar services could be a location or a forum for collaboration. Direct inter-autonomous ByStar services facilitate group communications, such as group video chats similar to the proprietary Skype. Federated ByStar services are republication services that, for example, republish and provide permanence for content that autonomous entities create. Mediated inter-autonomous ByStar services provide for hooking up autonomous entities so that they can engage in further end-to-end and direct inter-autonomous interactions. Dating services are an example of mediated inter-autonomous ByStar services. Within the ByStar digital ecosystem, the manner of existence of all Internet services must conform to a definition that we consider ethically correct. In other words, the manner of existence of all Internet services must be halal. By Internet services, we mean network access to execution of software. By halal manner of existence of Internet services, we mean full compliance to the definitional criteria that we have provided in PLPC 180.045 and at liberservices.org. Briefly, this means that the user of the service must be able to reproduce the service for him or herself, and that the entirety of the service should be internally transparent and evolvable, so that the engineering profession on behalf of the individual can safeguard and improve the service. This requirement conflicts with the Western intellectual property rights model. For this reason, we have vested the time and energy in proving, based on logic of nature of polyexistentials, that the Western intellectual property rights regime is a colossal mistake. PLPC 120.033 is a 200-page document that presents our logic. In due course, we expect that PLPC 120.033 will become authoritative on this topic. Polyexistentials are things that exist in nature in multiples and are subject of the Western intellectual property rights regime. Ideas, knowledge, poetry, music, porn, software, and Internet services are all polyexistentials. Having rejected copyright and patents as personal property, we then address the question of proper public governance of polyexistentials in general and software and Internet services in particular. With PLPC 120.039, we do two things. First, we introduce halal and haram into Globish based on moral philosophy of abstract halal. Second, we define the general form of the Libre-Halaal label as it can be used for any polyexistential. In PLPC 180.044, we provide definitional criteria for Libre-Halaal software. Our definition is consistent with the definitional criteria for free software. In PLPC 180.046, we describe why we use the Libre-Halaal label instead of FOSS, free and open source software. The halalsoftware.org has been created to support this definition. In this slide, the bottom two boxes, which are green, indicate that they apply to all polyexistentials. The top two boxes that are blue apply to software and services. Having defined the label of Libre-Halaal Internet services as a constraint for manner of existence of all services in ByStar digital ecosystem, we now focus on autonomous services. Central to ByStar digital ecosystem is the notion of autonomous services. For a ByStar service to be considered autonomous, it needs to fulfill the following requirements. The first two requirements are due to the service being Libre-Halaal. The third requirement states that the owner of an autonomous service must be able to possess his service if he wishes to. The fourth requirement is that the owner of an autonomous service should have full control over her service. If an autonomous service is being hosted by a hosting provider, the entire service must be portable. The owner should be able to transfer the hosted service to a different hosting provider. The sixth requirement is that a hosting provider should delete the entire service and the owner's information upon demand by the owner. These last two criteria are to be legislated in ByStar digital ecosystem. Conforming to all these requirements results in a service being considered a ByStar autonomous service. All of ByStar uses a common core Libre-Halaal software. We call this common core the Universal BySauce. BySauce stands for ByStar Internet Application Services Operating System. Engineering philosophy of BySauce builds on the Unix philosophy in the applications and internet services domain. BySauce facilities are structured in two parts. BySauce core features are those that are essential. BySauce feature areas provide for open-ended realization of additional ByStar capabilities. BySauce, along with ByStar services, provide for ByStar software service continuums. In this figure, we are showing a certain perspective for considering layerings in a ByStar platform, a BXP. This layering perspective plus the goal of creating various universalities which would lead to deep software service continuums is key to our design of the ByStar digital ecosystem. Universality of BySauce is inherited from being based on the Debian GNU Linux. This universality permits all ByStar platforms, be it handsets, devices, servers, laptops, and virtual machines, to function consistently and harmoniously and collaboratively. This universality is rooted in all ByStar software to always be reproducible from its Libre-Halaal source. Our choice of Emacs as a universal development and user environment brings an additional level of cohesion to the ByStar digital ecosystem. Here, pictorially, we provide an overview of BySauce concepts and terminology. Most BySauce software are implemented as interactive command modules, ICMs. ICMs, which are implemented in Python and Bash, bring a high degree of consistency to BySauce. Through the concept of ICM players within BySauce, in addition to GUI and command line interfaces, there is also a GUI line interface. ICMs then are specialized for the general concepts of ByStar entities, ByStar objects, and ByStar service realizations, allowing consistent management and operation of ByStar platforms. BySource is designed to be an open-ended and expandable through the notion of ByStar feature areas. In the left column, we provide an overview of the basic key common features of BySource. These are facilities that permit basic interactions with ByStar Central and which permit realization of additional capabilities of ByStar objects. In the right column, we provide an overview of some of the key feature areas. Feature areas represent capabilities that ByStar objects can inherit. In this table, we provide a list of by domains that we have acquired and some placeholder services that we have implemented. These are categorized based on the type of entities associated with them. In terms of features, capabilities, richness of services, ease of use, comfort, and preference, Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem should be able to compete directly to the proprietary American digital ecosystem. In other words, everything that people are able to do in the American digital ecosystem should be possible to also accomplish in the ByStar digital ecosystem. And indeed, this will gradually be the case. All the services that are being currently provided in the proprietary American digital ecosystem can also be provided in the ByStar digital ecosystem based on the model of ByStar entities. Additionally, the consistency of ByStar entities design makes the aggregate use of these services easier and much more productive. The abstraction of ByStar autonomous entities empowers authentication and access control in a consistent manner, eliminating the need for the model of dozens of passwords. In this table, we show how existing proprietary American digital ecosystem services are to map into their equivalent in the Libre-Halaal ByStar digital ecosystem. Proper operation of ByStar digital ecosystem requires a number of central services. In order to address this, we have created ByStar Central. The Libre-Halaal Foundation, as a non-profit organization, has been formed to function as an organization responsible for maintaining central integrity of ByStar. ByStar Central primary functions are that of being a name and number assignment authority and that of being a software distribution center. Libre-Halaal Foundation and Nedo Communications Inc. have been intertwined in the early phases of the evolution of ByStar digital ecosystem. The fundamental model of ByStar digital ecosystem is in fact very pro-business, market-oriented, and capitalistic. By choice, we have restricted ourselves in two areas. One, rejection of intellectual property rights, resulting into a pure Libre-Halaal software and services model. Two, full commitment to preservation of the individual's autonomy. When framed properly, neither of these is a business disadvantage. With proper jujitsu, these restrictions can present enormous business advantages. Building on the concept of polyexistentials that we used to reject the intellectual property rights regime, we have produced PLPC 120042, in which we describe how polyexistential capitalism can stand against the IPR model in business and economic terms. To focus directly on our own profit in the context of creating the ByStar digital ecosystem, we have produced PLPC 180014. NEDA's Open Business Plan is a complete and very sophisticated business plan that describes how creation and evolution of ByStar digital ecosystem can become a very profitable venture for those who participate and invest in it. The scope and scale of ByStar is enormous. Once its full design is properly in place, its scope and scale can expand gradually. Here, we present the evolution of ByStar in a phased fashion. Thus far, our focus has been on phases 0 and 1. These needed to be accomplished by a small, cohesive crack team. That work has been done over the past decade. We self-funded it. For phase 2 and beyond, we need large amounts of capital. The results of phase 0 and 1 are being exposed now so that we can gather more participants. Just in the context of phases 0 and 1, with myself as an example, I can show you how ByStar has made me more autonomous and has resulted in less of my privacy being compromised. There are two general ways of joining ByStar: as a group or as an individual. At the end of phase 1, now, we are not actively encouraging individuals to join ByStar. It is at the end of phase 2 that we will be doing so. At this time, we are encouraging groups that recognize the benefits of ByStar model to adopt ByStar. We describe basic details for the process of joining, adopting, and/or licensing ByStar in a public unsolicited proposal in the form of PLPC 180040. Please join us in making ByStar widespread and stop the downward spiral of the danger that proprietary American digital ecosystem is posing to civilization and humanity.